There are several things to consider when choosing the type of sleeping bag. The most common is probably fleece on the outside, fleece on the inside. It's extra warm, it's easy to wash. It is not quite as durable as some of the other options on the inside of your bag. So if your hedgehog is a digger, it can scratch holes in the cage by just digging like this. So always make sure that your sleeping bag is in good integrity. Some of the other options for the inside of your sleeping bag is flannel. A flannel is going to provide a more smooth surface, so your hedgehog is not going to dig and create little fuzz balls and a hole as easily as the fleece option. The outside of your sleeping bag is not as important to the hedgehog, but it is important for you to think about when cleaning. If you're using a fleece liner, it's not a big deal, but the outside of the cotton on fleece is much easier to wipe other types of bedding off, so that you're not dragging other types of bedding out of the cage and onto the floor when you're picking up your hedgehog. Another thing to consider on the inside of your sleeping bag is dryness. Fleece is much more drying to the skin than what a cotton or flannel would be. It's going to be warmer, but it's also can induce dryness much more quickly than the flannel. The flannel on flannel or flannel on cotton is going to be maybe a summer type sleeping bag if your cage area is nice and warm anyway. But in the winter, the flannel cotton isn't going to be as warm as those that have fleece. There are a couple other options when thinking about your sleeping bags. Is your basic sleeping bag, it has no rim, there's no edge, anything like that. If your sleeping bag is large enough, you can bend it back so that it provides a little bit more of an opening, but you do want to make sure your sleeping bag is large enough so that there's still plenty of room. This size sleeping bag would be for maybe a young to smaller size hedgehog, if you use my hand as a comparison, but if you have a larger hedgehog, you want to use a bigger bag. Another feature that a lot of sleeping bags can have, and ours on our website have, is a little bit of a stiffener on the outside rim. That allows you to open your sleeping bag so it stays open for your hedgehog to go in or out of. There is hardware in here, so you do want to make sure that everything is in good shape, because as the wire or plastic or whatever is used in the rim is used over time, it can poke through. So if you see any damage to the rim, you want to replace it or mend it. But I personally prefer the type with the rim stiffener, so that your hedgehog can easily go in and out. It's especially helpful when you're kind of training your hedgehog to use the sleeping bag, because it realizes that there's an opening, compared to a bag that is completely flat. Your hedgehog might not be as apt to go in it if it doesn't have an obvious opening. It might try to sleep under it instead of actually in your sleeping bag.